agenda is a title called Changing Customer Expectations. I'm not going to talk about that. Instead, I'm going to talk about you. And so, to get us in the right frame of mind and concentrate on what we're going to learn now, follow me. Okay, we're all together. There are several audience participation portions of this presentation. I'll tell you when they come. Here's the first one. Pretty easy. First question's, oh, I guess not. So these are great people. And they are all here and supportive, and they're here designed to provide you. This is not part of the presentation. They're going to work on it. Where did it go? Oh, well, let me finish with this. So these people are all about marketing performance. They're not about sales performance. They're about marketing performance. They're about those things that get leads to you. And when you yell at them and whine at them that you don't have enough good leads, you are wrong. Not one of these people says, you know what, I'm going to do a really shitty job. And I'm going to send them some crappy leads, people looking for low-income housing, people looking for jobs. I'm going to fill their coffers full of crappy leads. Not one of these people says that, because I asked them last night, every one of them. But we're not talking about marketing performance today. We're talking about sales performance, and there's a big difference. And sales performance is about you, and so that's why we're going to talk about you. Answer these questions, they get progressively harder. You can do this in your mind. What is senior living to you? Okay, got it? Here we go. So yesterday you saw Sandra, what was her name? Close. Shauna. Great presentation. Talk about her passions. And you all know what your passions are. But it's about the why. So was your why, when you answered the question about senior living, you answered questions about why you go to work, was it because, well, senior living is my job? Senior living is my passion. Senior living is the reason I go to work is I got to pay the bills. The reason I go to work is I love my job. The reason I go to work is I want to make a difference in people's lives. So the two things that we sell are changed lives and trust. That's our product. Changed lives and trust. And your job is to establish both of those in the hearts and minds of people that you work with. And I'm not talking about just to the salespeople or the people in the marketing offices. I'm talking about all those people whose names are up here, everybody in the room. That's your job, to change lives and establish trust. Some days we have a bad start to the day, like getting marshmallows thrown at you where you're wearing a dog cone. But we get over it. And some days we forget what our why is, and we get all knocked off our pins. And those days are the days when we've got to recover. We've got to recover fast. So, there are also difficult people in your lives. Sometimes it's your boss. Sometimes it's a coworker. Sometimes it's a partner or spouse. Sometimes it's somebody random, but there are difficult people. And your job is to sort out what it is you like about them and what you don't like about them so you can be a better person yourself. Unless, of course, which in fact is true some days. But the fact is, most of the time, you have to sort your way through those people. So, when we have a bad day, we have mood poisoning, as we're going to describe it today, you just kind of have to let it go. You just have to let a bad situation, a bad thing go. We're going to talk in just a minute about a way to get through that that's creative. How's that? When was the last bad day you had? Could have been yesterday, could have been the day before, could have been you had a terrible travel experience, could have been your last annual review, could have been something else. But as long as you have passion and why, you can kind of make it through those days. As long as you understand that it's going to pass, you can make it through those days. Happily ever after. Happily ever after. And we'll get into self-proclaimed happiness and what that means to you when you're in the process of speaking with prospects. Now, I respect those that tell me the truth no matter how hard it is. Your job, every one of you, every single one of you, whether you're on the marketing performance side or you're on the sales performance side, every single one of you are paid to think like an 83-year-old woman. That's what you're paid to think like. At 83, they're pretty good at sorting out truth from fiction, hype from fact. They're pretty good at reading people. They're pretty good at understanding the fact that life has tough choices sometimes. They've recovered from a number of setbacks, because by the time we're 83, we'll all have a number of setbacks. And they want to be spoken to professionally, empathetically, but directly. And sometimes we're afraid to do that because we want them to like us. Think about Shauna's presentation yesterday when she gave the 3 definitions of hospitality. Number 3 was hospitality happens when a person with which you have an encounter leaves feeling better about themselves than they do about you. Now, if you ask your prospects tough questions, and you feel like you don't want to ask them tough questions because, oh gosh, that's awkward. Oh golly, she might not like me. Oh gee whiz, she might not come back. Who cares? Your job is to change lives and to build trust. And how do you build trust? Your closest friends don't mind when you point out their faults, do they? Or them to you. So this whole thing about being professional, empathetic, and bold in your sales is important. And just as a recall, I stuck to that marshmallow. Just as a recall, how many leads are sitting in your database, just sitting there, provided with love and understanding by the marketing performance side, that you haven't been bold with, that you haven't approached and asked tough questions like, don't you think it's about time to move in? Don't you think on the basis of this conversation you should be making a deposit? Do you believe that the next 5 years of your life look like the last 5 years? And if they say, yes, it looks exactly the same, you know that they are not in tune. Because it doesn't. At 83, at 75, at 65, the next 5 years of your life do not look like the last 5 years of your life. Stuff's going to happen. What do we say? Bad things happen every 6 months in the life of an 80-year-old. It might not be to them. Might be to their brother or their husband or their wife or their next door neighbor or there's somebody in their Sunday school. But bad things happen every 6 months. And if you're not keeping in touch with those people and asking them bold questions, number one, how are you ever going to build a rapport and get respect? Number two, they're just going to sit there and you're going to call our marketing professionals and go, I need more good leads. Let's change agencies. Whine, whine, whine. They're in there. They're in the database. They're waiting for you. They want to be spoken to truthfully. Some of you have heard my 3 favorite phrases in sales. For those that haven't, I'll repeat them. I didn't invent them, but you can have them. Number 1, don't you agree? You lay all this out, you tell them exactly what's going on. Don't you agree? Well, yes or no. Yes, I agree. Great. No, I don't. When you get that, what do you say? Oh, tell me more. Now, why not? Negative. Oh, tell me more. You see? And we all have to stop ourselves from listening with the intent to reply instead of listening with the intent to learn more. Because we're really good. All of you are really good at your jobs. Most of you are gifted verbally. Some of you gifted mentally. I won't point anybody out. But we've got such a big story to tell that we're all about, oh, I got that answer. I know exactly what to say to her. Oh, wait till I get this answer out. And they may or may not be ready for that. So listen with the intent to listen, not with the intent to reply. So number 1 was, don't you agree? Use it all the time. Don't you agree? Most of you that are in a relationship know how to use that. Oh, I need a new dress. Don't you agree? Your husband or partner have no choice but to go, oh, yes, honey. I wouldn't dare say you don't need a new dress. Oh, tell me more. You're trying to find out those things that are terribly important to them. Because they might just be throwing up smoke. They might just be, let's coin a new phrase, they might just be throwing marshmallows. And the last one I already used, but here it is in order. Does the next 5 years of your life look like the last 5 years? It's a great one. Draw them out. And they want to be spoken to factually. Now remember, any of you that are academics or any of you that are on the Zoom call that are academics, this is a very loose interpretation of what I'm about, but I'm using it to make an illustration, or to make a point. Psychology is the study of human behavior in the short term. Human behavior in the short term. Anthropology is the study of human behavior in the long term. And throughout human history, emotion wins over logic every time. Emotion wins over logic every time. Think of these people that are in your database, people that you've talked to a dozen dang times. Oh, I'm not ready yet. I still bowl. Whatever flimsy excuse they gave you. Because emotion wins over logic. And you could present the most logical reasons for them to choose your community, and their emotion gets in the way. So you got to punch through the emotion. You got to make it through the rain of marshmallows to get down to their best objection. And those three things I talked about will help you get there. You got to put them in your own words, but they'll help you get there. So my bold statement to you is, don't you whine about not having good leads until you've gone through that database and pounded the fire out of it. And don't you whine about not having good leads until you've worked every new lead to its fullest potential and been diligent and responsible and follow up on every one of them. Think about this for a minute. Every one of those leads, every single one of those leads, every single one of those leads, your sponsor paid $500 for them to sit dormant in your database. $500. What if we charged you for a lead? You wouldn't pay $500 for those leads. But just think about how much money is sitting in that database and how responsible you need to be. Because we're going to get to, very importantly in just a minute, what your real job is. Many of you might not know who Archie Bell and the Drells are, but I do. Archie Bell and the Drells are a one-hit wonder group that came out in the late 60s, and they had one song that hit the charts. It was a fabulous song called Tighten Up. It had a beat, man, and you just groove, and you could just listen to it in your head all day. Do 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 do. And it started like this. Hello, I'm Archie Bell and the Drells. We're from Houston, Texas. We can dance just as good as we walk. And the song was about just making it through everyday life with a beat in your head and the name was Tighten Up. So how does this relate to you? Yesterday, you learned a lot of stuff. Some of you, I made a point of asking many of you, what one thing are you going to take home from yesterday? What one thing? And many of you had one thing. Many of you had three things. Many of you said, oh, there's so much. Marshmallows. Anyway. It's impossible because human nature won't let it happen for you to walk out of here with a book of to-dos about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to eat less, I'm going to exercise more, I'm going to follow up on all my leads, I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask these 3 questions, I'm going to, it's impossible for you to do all that. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So my request to you is just to tighten up. Just start somewhere. Start with one thing. Make it work. Tighten up. We'll play the song later. And if you don't, routine will kill you. You'll start to hate your job. You'll start to believe that you're surrounded by assholes. You'll start to think that maybe I would rather have had my head in the dog cone because at least it would be excitement. Routine is the enemy of happiness. Routine is the enemy of passion. And it's who you think you're not. Oh my goodness, I couldn't do that. I couldn't ask Mrs. Gotrocks all those questions. Oh my goodness. Oh, that she wouldn't like me. It's not about her liking you. It's not about her liking you. There's a 97% chance she's not buying from you today. 97% chance she's not buying from you today. There's a 100% chance she learned something. And you got to keep twisting the dial and fishing for those things until she connects with something. 97% chance she's not buying. 100% chance you said something that she's going to go home and think about. So you got to follow up on it. And what happens? And something bad happens in the life of an 80-year-old, how often? And how many of those leads have you not touched for 6 months? Hundreds, in some cases, thousands. No more whining. And the competition is not the sales counselor in the next office. Competition is not the community down the road. They have bigger apartments. They have lower entrance fees. It's you. So what do you have to do? Say it with me. Tighten up. Pick those things that you learn here and incorporate them into your daily effort. Figure out how it connects with your passion. That's your competition. Competition is you getting better. It's the same amount of work to make ourselves miserable as it is to make ourselves stronger. So where do you want to put your effort? Really and truly, where do you want to put your effort? Where do you want to make yourself stronger? Gets better by change. Easy choice, easy statement. But you have to do it. Now, so while you're tightening up, maybe it's you work on something for a week or a month, and then you work on something else for a week or a month. And you got a whole list. We gave you all these fancy pens. We got all these fancy notebooks around here. When you write that stuff down, you can work on it and make those changes and stop choosing routine and stop choosing not to be bold. Habits decide your future. So when those things you want to tighten up become habits, then the next one kicks in. and they build on each other. See, you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward. You can kind of just start here, pick up one marshmallow at a time. How are we going to pick up all these marshmallows? One at a time. Gosh, I just had this terrible vision in my head that all these marshmallows are cast-off leads. That they're just down there waiting to be picked up, waiting to be talked, waiting to be eaten. Okay. This is really good. Don't worry about what you're doing wrong. Focus on what you want to do new. Focus on what is the new thing that I'm going to work on. Don't worry about looking backward. One of the greatest gifts that God gave me is a really small rearview mirror. Some of you were thinking I was going to say something else. But it's a rearview mirror. A really small rearview mirror and a really big windshield. I, like you, have made many mistakes, professionally, personally, financially, intellectually, with friends, neighbors, certainly with relatives. But a really small rearview mirror will benefit you. Don't be worrying about the past. Get the big picture up front. Like I said before, it's the momentum. You do one thing, then you do a next one. It builds on each other. And pretty soon you're starting to feel the change. And pretty soon you're starting to feel the effectiveness. And pretty soon you're starting to feel better about your passion. Pretty soon you're starting to feel like, hey, I'm actually a functioning adult. Stubborn about your goals and flexible about your methods. You got to change this. Change all the time. You know what your goals are. So, you're selling changing lives and trust. Your goal is make money for yourself and your family. Yep. But your number one, primary, A1, top priority thing that gives you unquestioned power in the operations and life in your community like you don't have now or don't feel like you have now is revenue. You are the revenue department of your community or your system. And this is terribly important for you to understand. Let's talk, let me go to the basics for just a minute. You have a really great idea, and it's going to cost some money, or you want to give Mrs. Gotrox a discount, or whatever it is, and your executive director goes, no, I'm not doing that. Let's go there for just a minute. How are executive directors paid? Well, most of them, and there's very slight variations, most of them are paid with 3 different ways. They all have a salary and health care benefits, basic. Generally, they get paid a part of their annual bonus for meeting operating numbers. So that is expenses. You meet or beat the expenses, you get money or more money. And the other one is meeting or beating revenue. You meet or beat revenue, you get more money. So when you go to your executive director or your whoever person and say, well, the entrance fees are too high and the monthly fees are too high, I sure wish we could lower them. Man, you are hitting that guy or gal in the gut twice. One on revenue, one on expenses. And when you say, oh gosh, couldn't we just do this? Couldn't the activities department or couldn't the food service department just do this? How does that activities director or those food service department people get paid? Controlling expenses. When you ask them to spend more money without providing more revenue, you're cutting into somebody else's side of beef. And so the answer is no without explanation, but if you understand it, you can see that your power lies in revenue. Your power lies in bringing in more occupancies. Your power lies in controlling the revenue of your community. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't need a discount. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't need a concession here. But the more you put in the door, the more say you have. The more say you have, the more control you have. The more control you have, the better off you are. And the more indispensable you can be. Don't answer this question out loud, but answer it in your head. Poof. If you disappeared tomorrow, would the community notice? If the answer is no, they just get another one of me. Get to work. Get to work. Go get that revenue. Go show them that you can produce cash with the best of them. And you have to do it with empathy. We call it separating people from their money with love and understanding. But that's your real job. Not to complain about the beans were cold, or the housekeeping only spent 20 minutes in Mrs. Cleaver's apartment, or all those other operational things. What did the wise girl once say? Let that go. Focus on revenue. Focus on entrance fees, monthly fees, rental, whatever, however you bring in money. That gives you power. That gives you ability to influence what goes on in your community. And pretty soon, they're going to say, wow, golly gee whiz. We can't have Stephanie just take off. We can't have her poof. Did I get that right? Oh, I got you caught in my bifocals right there. Yeah, we can't have her go poof. So stop. If you're complaining about operations, stop. Do they listen to you? Answer honestly. No. Sometimes. But you know the wall you're up against. You're up against all these other people. Now you're trying to get into everybody else's kettle of fish. Don't do that. Put all your energy, all your effort on revenue. It takes discipline. You can be as motivated as you want, but if you don't pair it with the discipline, you got nothing. The quickest way to acquire self-confidence is to do exactly what you're afraid to do. Audience participation portion number 2. Oh, you going to throw it at me? Please stand up. Now, put your feet slightly wider than your shoulders. Just slightly wider than your shoulders. Hands on your hips. Roll your hips forward. Shoulders back. Chin up. Superman. Or Superwoman. Breathe deep. Let it out. Next time you're going to have a annual review or a confrontation with your spouse or your partner or a meeting with that you really need the outcome to go your way with your boss or your executive director? Think about this. Think about the energy you feel when you are ready to face anything and you are prepared and you're bold and you are Superman. Okay, have a seat. Don't you feel better? Don't you feel good? Breathe deep. Strong. Comfort zones, routines, all that stuff goes on the same way. And you have to just break through it. And how do you break it through? You get your Superman on. Superwoman. I don't mean to be gender insensitive. So I use that as a generic term. See, this is the rearview mirror story. Looking back doesn't interest you anymore. You're doing something right because you're thinking forward. You shrink that rearview mirror. Oh, I did this wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, my goodness, I had a bad day. This, I was truly afraid that the presentation would be dragging by now. And that I would have to get the attention of the ladies. It's working. But to be fair, I had to put one in for the guys. See, so now we're all together, moving forward. I've riddled you with commentary about don't do this, don't do that, do this, do this, do that. The really important thing is to be productive. And only you can decide what that productive is. If productive leads to more revenue by building trust and changing lives, because that's in the middle. Building trust and changing lives is on the way to more revenue. Got it? You got to be productive. And so, the best party planned luncheon in the world never got a single sale. Never won. Made an impression, maybe, but it never got a single sale. So productivity is about sales performance. Marketing performance is different. Sales performance. Moving people closer and closer and closer to a yes with the skills and talents and products that you have and systems that we've all tried to build for you. Establishing trust and changing lives to get to revenue. And so you have to know what to overlook. Am I going to make one more call? Is my tighten up goal to make just one more call a day? Just one. Hell, one more call a week. Start small. But know what to overlook. Well, I could make one more call, or I could go down and check on and see if the dining room, if the private dining room was set up for our presentation just right. Maybe both are valid. One's productive. Decide what's productive for you. This is another riff on emotion trumps logic every time. So there are just some of those prospects that you can present the most logical presentation about why they should move to senior living. It can be perfectly aligned with their interests of themselves, their family, their health, their security, their desire for socialization, their place in life, And they go, oh, no, I'm not ready yet. And you can call them every 3 weeks and send them soup or whatever it is you do to get their attention. And sometimes, there are just people that aren't going to respond. And you have to let them go. They might be being ignorant. And you might just want to reach out and slap them. But you have to just let them go. And so you got to keep finding those people that you can move forward. Where do you want to be? Is it just about making more money for you, or which in turn makes more money for your company? That's fine. But you got to dig in and decide that this is something that is really aligned with your passions. If you get what senior living is and does, it will hang on to you and dig its claws into you forever. If you don't get what it is, or if you answered that first slide with senior living is my job, get out. Just take off. No harm, no foul. We still love you. But take off. Find something that is your passion. Find something that is your desire to get up in the morning and dig in and believe in your deepest depths of your heart you are changing lives and selling trust. Because if it's important, you'll figure it out. If not, it becomes an excuse. And we're not accepting excuses as a reason this year. You've all seen something or some version of this in some other past presentation about self-discipline being the thing. I can't do it for you. Your Greystone Regional can't do it for you. Your marketing professionals can't do it for you. It's all about you. It's about you digging in. Get that revenue, go after what you want. You want more money? You want to make more money? Boom, bring in revenue. You want more say in what goes on in the community? Boom, bring in revenue. You want to offer bigger discounts? Boom, bring in revenue. Don't anybody answer this question out loud. How many of you believe that if you cut the entrance fees and monthly fees in your apartment, in your community by half, more people would buy? Don't know what your answer is. My answer is, nope. More people will not buy. This is not a price product. Senior living is a product that has to be sold. People don't buy senior living. It has to be sold. It has to be sold with love and understanding. It has to be sold with the prospect of changing lives and building trust. But if you cut the price in half, you'd still have the same problem of people. I'm not ready yet. Whine, whine, whine. So you have to kind of decide your own happiness. I've in my life and career, I've had situations where I had a great home life and a crummy job. I've had situations where I've had a crummy home life and a great job. I've been in situations where I've had a crummy home life and a crummy job. And I've been in situations where I have a good home life and a good job. So all permutations therein. But it took me a long, long, long time to figure out that happiness is an inside job. It took me a long time to figure that out. I was well into maturity. Your happiness is about what you choose and how you decide to tighten up. And I'm not saying any of you are unhappy at all. But those things that drive you freaking nuts, that create angst or unhappiness? What'd that wise girl say? Yeah, you're polite. Okay. And this is about you. When you meet those people for the first time. Oh, let me get my book and the price sheet. I'll be back in an hour. I know there are negative people in your lives. I know there are. I won't name them out loud, even though I know some of them very well. But again, energy, positivity, productivity, tighten up. What do you sell? Changing lives, trust. What's that get you? Revenue, baby. Well, she just doesn't give a very good presentation. Well, she told them there was more than 20 meals in a month. Let all that go. Get rid of it. You can only control you, and you're on the path. All the intermediate steps to revenue, which gives you power and money and control and influence in your community to change lives. Your smile's your logo, personality, trademark. Now, this flies in the face a little bit of what Shauna said yesterday, that hospitality is in an engagement, have the person leave feeling better about themselves and better about you. But don't you feed off others' energy? And don't others feed off your energy? You've all heard it said about you. Oh, I get such an energy from you. I get such a vibe from you. I get such, and maybe it's not a 83-year-old Mrs. Gotrocks, but sometimes it is. None of you are normal. Not one person here is normal. You know what normal is? It's a city of 54,000 people in central Illinois. That's all it is. That's all normal is. So when somebody says, well, what's the norm? Well, Norm was the guy who was the postman at the Cheers. That's Norm. Normal is a town in central Illinois. Boom. Nobody here is normal. Nobody here is normal. All these quotes do not mean a thing. They're fun, but they don't mean a thing unless you take them home and work on them. You can be bolder. Don't worry, you don't have to be smarter. I mean, a lot of you are really, really smart. A lot of you are semi-smart. A lot of you are smart. How's that? Everybody gets a participation trophy for being smart. But it's about being bolder. It's about asking Mrs. Gotrocks those questions that are going to get her closer, because she's accustomed to hearing challenging questions. She hears it from her friends. She's heard it here in a variety of situations. Don't worry that she's going to be offended by you. Move forward. Ready? Superman pose. Those of you that know how to do this, you can flip your hair a little bit like that. Read it with me. I'm not here to be average. I'm here to be awesome. This time with gusto. And faster. Sounds like we're singing the dang hymn in church. Ready? I'm not here to be average. I'm here to be awesome. One more time. I'm not here to be average. I'm here to be awesome. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, somebody's next.